Hey folks, and welcome to the Pipnotic Symposium for the 21st of July 2020. Um, my family and I are in a summer house in northern Zealand. It's a pretty small space, so I apologize in advance for noise in the background. But today we are going to have a look at something that came in the forum. If we have a look, it was UK, wait, it was Mitch's request about doing kind of a top-down analysis and looking for major flows. Okay, so we're going to jump into that, and we'll start on the Euro USD, which is a request by John, and we'll start here. So, I mean, when we're considering the flows, it's important to know where the major flows are going. When I say major, I refer to the time frames. Okay, so if you're looking at a monthly chart and you're seeing that price is racing higher like it is just here, well, it means that you want to be careful of shorting anytime soon until we start reaching the edge of a sell zone. We don't have that until higher. And we have a sell zone here, so price will probably reach this area here, which is price sensitive, and we know this because last time price was up here we had a massive rejection, and above that we have another one, and this is where the slingshot is for this area of supply. How price came down, the slingshot was pulled back, and then we left. Okay, price visited the child, we entered the sell zone, we poked deeper into the child, and now we're looking to retest, and I'm thinking probably deeper. And so for the time being you could focus on longs because we're looking at this very strong push on the monthly chart, or shorts higher up. Okay, so you have to take this information, you make a mental note of this, and you take it down with you to the smaller time frames. So we go to the weekly chart, see what that looks like. You can see that we have, okay, so we have an area of accumulation. We know this is accumulation because price on this candle here managed to close above a period of accumulation, which is telling us that we have some interest, some shorter term interest in driving price higher. Okay, and you can see here that we had something in here which you can't really see, but you can see there's a lot of respect for this level. Support, price went down, we didn't manage to hold, we tested it again, price finally managed to trade below, the slingshot was pulled back to this area, and this is where we left from, okay, before returning to this weekly demand just here. Okay, and before I go on, I just want to mention that this supply and demand software here is a development version, and the algo has been changed, or I'm changing it, and I have incorporated volume into this version. It's not quite ready, I'm still experimenting, and so maybe your charts will look slightly different than mine, so I just wanted to make a note of that. So currently we have a sell zone here, we have shorter term interest on driving prices higher. If you look at the histogram, I could imagine we're probably starting to see the histogram reach pretty high levels and potentially starting to display some histogram divergence, so currency strength divergence. Okay, so we're having higher highs in prices, but we're probably seeing the strength of the euro and the American dollar maybe start to shift. Okay, so you go to the daily chart and we have a look. Before we do that, what we know now about the major flows on the Euro USD is that we're approaching a sell zone, which is important, so we want to be selling higher. But shorter term, you can see we're quite strong. Our price is really racing north. Okay, we do have higher highs and higher lows on this price chart. Price moved above this high, so we confirm that we had actually an interest in continuing to move the Euro USD holler for the shorter term. Okay, so this is what I refer to when I say the flows. And what we can do is you can also look at the histogram. Let's try this one here. I'm not sure what the configuration looks like. As you can see pretty clearly here, how we have price moving lower like so, but we have the strength of the euro picking up relative to the American dollar, and you can see the result of this, how price simply just started wriggling and moving higher away from this area. But on was it the daily or the 4-hour chart? On the daily chart, we're very high, so we are in positive variance territory, which means a lot. It means that we are probably going to start to see a shift in flows, potentially more flows moving to the American dollar relative to the euro. If you go to the 4-hour chart, you can see that this is slowly starting to happen, where we have higher highs in price and we have the histogram telling us a different story. And so this is kind of just giving us a bit of a heads up as to the momentum, the slow shift in momentum between the flows of these two currencies. Okay, so if we have a look back here on the daily chart, I mean, I really like this area here. So what I like to do is I really like to look for an area. Let's say, for the sake of example, we have an area of demand. I want to see price do something and then leave and then try and come back to it and fail and then move higher and then try to come back and then fail and then move higher and then try to come back. So this is telling us that we have this buy zone. The first time that the buy zone was here, we tested it. The second time the buy zone was here, we tested it, and so on and so forth. And eventually price will move back in to this area of demand. And we know this is an important area of demand because we've had a difficult time moving into that area. Historically, we had a few tests before price finally poked into that area. If you look here on this time frame here, you can see just that happening. Let me zoom out a little. Okay, like so. Actually, matter of fact, let me go to the weekly chart just to make it clearer. Okay, so on the weekly chart, I can zoom all the way out like that. So here on the weekly chart, we have something in here, and you can see here that we had a test, an attempt, an attempt, an attempt, an attempt, and then we had these deeper pushes. So price tried to, failed, tried to, failed many times. We had a really strong attempt at moving up to the edge of the sell zone here, but we had massive failure. So this is telling us that price levels above the high of this are going to be considered attractive areas at which to sell. And just above that, we have this area of supply, and this is supply simply because we have a decent pattern here. Price departed, and then price tested this area, and from this price point here, price managed to trade below this area of weekly demand, as well as this one just here. And so this is telling us that we're pretty high in price. The histogram is reaching some pretty high levels as well, which is also telling us that we have a likelihood that we could see the euro US dollar slowly begin to break down. If you look at the average, I can't really see, I'd say it's probably sitting on the zero line. And we have the American dollar here, which is sitting very, very low. We have the euro, which is pretty flat. And so the strength of this currency pair now is not because of euro strength, it is because of American dollar weakness. Okay, you can see the American dollar, which is quite weak. We can see the euro is quite flat. And so when you have extreme weakness in something, well, typically this is telling us something about the cycle, where we have our average price, and then we have these deviations from it, how price leaves. We go positive, we leave, we go negative, we leave, and what happens? We don't know what happens, but we have a hunch that we are probably going to do something like this because of this down here, because we're very, very negative on the American dollar. So we're going to expect the American dollar to slowly start to pick up relative to the euro. Okay, so that's what we have, and we're reaching these pretty interesting areas. If you see here on this one here, we had I'm just going to mark this off with a rectangle. We have this, we had a buy zone, sorry, a sell zone just here. Let's see what that looks like, and let's have a look on the 4-hour and confirm that. Yeah, to this, when I look at this, this is not supply, this is a reaction to supply. So I would remove that, and I would mark off the high, and I'd say, well, what was it that price was reacting at? And then I'd scroll left, and I'd want to find that area of supply that caused price to wriggle. So you can see here we had the slingshot, where we had our area just here. Okay, so we had the parent, we had the child, price came up to it, we actually came to the edge of the parent just here. Okay, bottom of the parent. Okay, and then you have to start to look for these areas that start to make sense. And this is just an interesting one because price moved up into this area, and we left. The slingshot was pullback, and then we left. But we have the same thing happening here, how price went up to this area here and we left. Slingshot was pulled back and then we left. So we do have something else going on here. So you could say, well, okay, what about this one here? But the only problem with this one here is that this didn't really do anything. And looking at this, I mean, when price left here, it didn't do anything, did it? Okay, but we do have a sell zone at this area here because of the fact that when price pulled back to here, to this supply, then we left, which tells us that we have supply in here. But let's remove these and this, and we'll move this higher. We'll have a look at the sell zone, and this is looking, if you look at this on this time frame, it looks pretty ugly, doesn't it? And so what one could do is ask, well, where has price been back to historically? And then you could say, okay, is this chaotic? Does this look chaotic, or does it look clear? Is there clarity or chaos? When I look at that, I say, I'd say it looks pretty chaotic. And so I want to move my entry above. So I'd move my entry to perhaps up here, or to perhaps up here where we have a lot more clarity and we have a top just here. Okay, so a couple of interesting options there, and here we have a very historically respected level, lots of tests at that area. Price popped up, we sat on the area, then we managed to close below it. So we formed a new area of value from this price point here, and the origin of this really nice decline in price originated from this area just here. So this would be an area that we would expect price to bounce at. And here it is. This is just a very beautiful rally distribution departure. And here we had a rally distribution, but we had a pretty gradual departure. The big one occurred here. So this would be our area of supply just here. Okay, because when price left here as well, we managed to move through this demand, and we managed to move through the demand that is located somewhere in here, which we can't see. So if we go like that, you can see it was tested a few times, and you can see that this area tested the area of supply that caused price to move through this one here. This is where it tested, this is where it's gone. And so this one is still in play, just here. This is testing, but this one here is just a very clear area here. And you could argue that price has been back to this area, and it has indeed been back to this area. It's traded here before here. But due to the fact that price went up to this area, we moved sideways, and then we left, and this whole leg is kind of hanging on this one here. This is worth watching for a little while to see if we get some kind of reaction at that. And this is a small position as well, so there's less risk than I otherwise would put on a trade. So we'll have to wait and see what happens when price comes back up to there. I just like this rally distribution departure, and this is just a little bit less extravagant, a little bit less of a kind of a shirt tearing area here. Okay, so that's what we have there. Let's have a look on the 30-minute chart and see what we have setting up here. Well, first of all, we want to look for those really clear areas, and we don't really have any clear areas here. There's a lot of this price going up and down, so there's a lot of clarity. We have an area here which is interesting, just here. Oops, this is kind of the departure where price tested. This is at the 113.60. Price tested, and then we raced north, and we have not been back to this area since the departure. Price tried to come to it, so we're establishing the area of the buy zone at the child, and this is where price left from. So I think this would be an interesting area to look at. Okay, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, so that's what we have, I think, on the euro US dollar. I hope this helps answer your question, Mitch. If it doesn't, let me know, and I will have another iteration. And then John, we looked at the euro USD, and that was it. So I think we covered all the questions for today. Good. Well, I'll have another go here maybe tomorrow or the day after. We're kind of moving around a little bit, and so it's kind of difficult to have a quiet moment to sit down and run these through. But if you have any questions, send them to me, and I'll get to them as soon as I possibly can. Thanks again for watching.